Here's Frank Corrado, former Vancouver Canuck TSN hockey analyst. How are you?
Just thinking about golf, boys. Thinking about it. I don't know when I'll be able to play, but one day I'll get out there. I'll be just as lucky as you guys getting out there.
His course doesn't open for another week yet, Blake.
So mean.
Greens here are already firming up. They're not as receptive as they used to.
He's been beating on all the Eastern guests, Frankie. He's been just...
Listen, man, I get it. I get it. Fresh air, mountains, the sea, nice scenery. And what do we get? We get a late golf season start.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, the fact of the matter is when your team is not participating in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have to make your own fun. So I'm out there playing golf and teasing Easterners about all the golf we're playing.
Do you remind people about your hole-in-one still, or is that...
No, I don't go to
Thank God that rhetoric has died down, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, I mean, the anniversary date's coming up. We'll mark it then, but...
The T-shirts will be available.
Every time we get to the 8th tee at Northlands, I mention it, but...
Oh, my God.
It's a small audience. What did you make of Rutherford and Alvin on Monday?
Oh, boy. That was something, man. Like, I'm sure you guys have kind of chewed it up a million different ways, but you know what it kind of reminds me of? Like, fans are so into their team, and fans will, like, conjure up, the most extreme of narratives and, situations in their head, and they throw it out there on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. And then oftentimes at the end of the season, we kind of expect whether it's the general manager or the head coach to be calculated and precise with what they're going to say and not add any fuel to the fire. And it was like they said, nah, let's just talk about what everyone else in the most extreme fanatical type of way is going to talk about and lay it all out there. And I use the word calculated. It's almost so uncalculated, it could be calculated. You know what I mean? It's
That's
like almost
debate.
So it's like so unbelievable
I think it is.
That it was like, wait a second. Am I missing the reason why you would even go to those lengths and those extremes? But it was pretty revealing, to say the least.
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, and not to disparage Pittsburgh or Raleigh, but they are not the same hockey markets that Vancouver is. I think Rutherford is wise enough to know he's speaking to a very savvy hockey market. As you always say, Frank, Canucks Twitter is undefeated.
Yes.
Right? So the conversation is out there with or without you, so you might as well get ahead of it as best you can, get on the right side of it as best you can. And then the other thing I think is they sat around this year, took stock, and I can't believe this is happening. Right? So I honestly think it's a little cathartic, a little therapeutic.
You know what?
To be out there talking about it.
Watching that, it kind of puts it into perspective, the toll that this season would have taken on everyone, right? Whether it was the management, the coaches, the players, and especially like the leadership group. And I kind of am basically just referring to Quinn Hughes, because he was he's the captain and he's in the middle of all these moving parts around him and all that noise. But like this season took a chunk out of everyone. It's like it's hard to watch that and not think like, how bad were the bad days for these guys, or how stressed out were these guys in the middle of everything going on and your team is losing. And Matt, to your point, like you can hear the outcry in the market, and it's a savvy fan base who really gets it, and they're knowledgeable, and you can't hide and you can't BS anything, and they know that. And so I think like that's one of my takeaways, as much as it was, calculated or not calculated, whatever you want to, talk about, like everything was kind of laid out on the line, but it just felt like there was a serious toll on everyone involved. And it's not like, here's the thing now though, it's not like the cloud just got lifted and it's over.
No,
it's a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a break,
well,
and you got some serious work to do.
He almost conjured another cloud in the Quinn Hughes matter.
As the season premieres of Andor and Last of Us drop, the season finale of the Vancouver Canucks was what sent us off into the off season with all sorts of question marks. Lightning round time. 2 years from now, who's a Vancouver Canuck? Rick Tocchet, Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson.
You want me to go all three of them?
Tocchet, go.
Not a Canuck. Quinn Hughes, a Canuck. Elias Pettersson, not a Canuck.
Wow. Okay.
Now explain yourself.
I flipped a coin. I think that the Tocchet thing. Okay, they obviously had the option to keep him around. They're not going to do that. They want to negotiate in good faith, and they want him to want to be here. There's a lot of coach openings right now, and I think if you're really having, a deep conversation with yourself about building it up or being somewhere that maybe you're a little more comfortable or who gives you a better chance to win, there's going to be options for a guy like Rick Tocchet, or Rick Tocchet specifically. Like, think about what the resume includes. It's coach of the year last year. It's multiple Stanley Cup, wins as an assistant coach. It's a guy that is known for communicating with guys. Whatever you thought of this year almost feels like a wash. My point is, he's going to be very highly sought after and could find himself in a situation that might be more advantageous to whatever he wants to do. So I feel like those balls would be up in the air. I said Quinn Hughes would still be a Canuck. I guess I'm kind of just hanging on to the fact that he's been a good soldier here.
Yeah.
He's everything here. He probably, enjoys the city, enjoys playing there. I mean, I would imagine it's such a great place to be. But he's going to get everything that he could hope and ask for, and he could go down as one of the best, if not the greatest player to ever play in the organization. So legacy factor, call it that. Elias Pettersson, I think it's last chance you for this guy, based on everything that we heard from Rutherford and Alvin and Tocchet, for that matter, in the postseason kind of recap. And it's if in their opinion he doesn't get his act together and starts practicing better, and commits himself, in the gym, or take it on the ice, away from the puck, really kind of rounds out his game, then the way Jim Rutherford is, he just went out there and pulled the trigger on all these comments. He's trigger happy to make trades, and I don't think he'll care if he loses a trade involving Elias Pettersson just to say, I've rid myself of enough things here, and I'm going to do this thing now. And this is if the guy can't do it, I gotta wash my hands with it at some point, and the organization's going to have to move on to someone else regardless of who's coming back.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that part, but what you don't want to get to the point is where you're paying for Elias Pettersson to go away. And the danger is that I think at this point, no, you can still maybe win a trade, or at least have a fair trade of Elias Pettersson and his contract, but because we're only a year away from him being truly elite. But if you get longer than a year away, with the length and the expense of that contract, do you have to start holding back salary and effectively paying somebody to take Elias Pettersson? You don't want to get to that point, and because you can always trade somebody with a no move. That's been proven time and time again. So the no move kicks in, but you need him to play ball, and it gets so restrictive if you trade him past July 1st that you start to lose unless he's really performing.
Well, I think there's a lot of things there that you can touch on. First of all, the team is always going to have winning a championship as the ultimate goal. So all the questions you're going to ask about Elias Pettersson and anyone involved will be, can we win with this guy? Right. And if it gets to the point where we're seeing what we saw from him this year, then the answer is quite evidently no. You can't. And then so it comes down to, if you had to find a way to move him, you're not getting fair market value, in your opinion, anyways. You're not winning the trade. It's almost like a situation where beggars can't be choosers, and you just got to find a way to get out from under it. And it wouldn't be the first time a player of that caliber, you had to eat salary or had to do something. It wouldn't be the first time in the history of the league, right? It sucks. And I'm not saying it gets to that point, but I'm just saying, if he doesn't figure it out in their eyes, it's not pick a team that would have something that you would want coming back in return. Like, I don't know, you talk about Columbus or Detroit or Carolina. It's like, who's coming back in your eyes that makes it a fair trade?
So I've thought a lot about this. I still believe they have a window before July 1st to trade for him and reap value. I'm not sure it's going to be the blow you away value that they might have reaped if they had moved him last year before this extension. But I still think there are teams out there that fancy Elias's skill set and think that we can get more out of him, particularly in a quieter market where, he doesn't have an antagonist like JT Miller across the dressing room.
Use the Rantanen thing.
Right?
Like, use the Rantanen kind of template this year, Matt, where he goes for Natchez and then Stankoven. And like Mikko Rantanen at the time is considered a top 10, 12 player, like pretty much unanimously around the league. Like, Pettersson's not that anymore. So I think that Natchez Stankoven guy's not really on the table for you.
I was going to say, I would be surprised if the return got to the levels of Natchez, Drury in a second. I would be surprised if the return got to the level of, was it Stankoven and 2 first-round picks that they wound up getting?
Yeah, I can't remember the picks, but
okay.
I'm just thinking of like the player that's coming to help you win right now.
I think it would fall short of that, and so the Canucks have to make a decision on whether or not they are going to cut their losses or whether or not they think Elias can bounce back. The other structure I see as possible here, Frank, because remember, the Canucks also don't want to take steps back, right? Like they don't want this to be a futures-loaded or exclusively a futures deal. I wonder if it's a, change of scenery, our problem for your problem, kind of like what we saw with the Dubois-Kemper trade.
Yeah. You gotta, I guess, locate someone around the league who's in the same boat as you and your guy and hope that it works out. And listen, like, to that trade, Pierre-Luc Dubois was kind of like last chance you. He had worn out his welcome in Columbus, in Winnipeg. Didn't go well for him in LA. There you go. Now it works in Washington. So I think it is a little bit of a lesson in not just getting swept up in the recency bias on a player, and not even recency bias, just like thinking that he is only this, what we've seen from him, over the past calendar year and then some. We've kind of talked about this a lot this year. Elias Pettersson didn't forget how to play hockey. Like, there's other elements at play. There's the same guy that was filling the net, getting 100 points. Like, he's in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. So you're right. Like, there is something to be said there. It's just you've got to convince another team that that's the case. Yep. And you got to convince them that they got to give you something that doesn't completely, revolve around futures.
Right. Not easy. Not sitting here for a second and suggesting that this would be easy.
Before we leave him,
okay.
And no one's saying that you can be right here, but just your gut and what are your eyes telling you? And the answer is both, but what's the bigger piece, do you think? Him physically getting better and in shape and strengthening former injuries, or do you think it's between the years? What's the bigger piece for Elias Pettersson?
I think it's physically. I think the physical affects the mental and holds back the mental. And like if you didn't have anything bothering you, like chances are the mental is probably in a pretty good place. Unless something, happened, and we all deal with mental health struggles, but I think it is, okay, we don't all, but people do. There's like a domino effect that leads to certain things. And I think the first domino is physical. And so once you take care of that, then you have the opportunity to kind of get yourself right between the ears.
I will defer to your expertise on it. I think it's a hell of a question, though, Blake, because he it's not like he wasn't skinny. It's not like he wasn't, a little weak on his skates. And yet there was a 100-point season in there for that guy.
That's what I keep throwing at people that say he doesn't know how to prepare. All of his preparation, all of his usual stuff got him to a 100-point season and a 90-point season.
Like, he's got to get stronger on his skates. There's no question.
Yeah.
You'd love if he could get a little bit more explosive. He doesn't have to have long speed, but just like separating ability.
Quick little burst. Quick little burst,
exactly,
quick out of the gate. Because that's the thing. Like, that's how he kind of would create separation in the past, where
that's it.
Little head fake, I got a first gear. I can get out of there quickly. He needs to get that. And to your point about him always kind of being slender and skinny, that worked for him because he was slippery and he would kind of slither his way around. Whereas if you're bulkier, you have a hard time doing that. So as much as they want him to get bigger, bigger's not always, it's not always the right thing. Just get stronger and get a little more explosive. And if the size comes with that, that's great. But you have to work with what you got to a certain degree. Like, I don't know. You can't just ask guys to come in and say, you got to just throw on 15 pounds. Great. What did that do for you?
Yeah,
for sure. And Frank, you hit it like really across a whole fleet of sports. Overrated, long speed. Underrated, acceleration, agility in tight areas.
Well, you want to hear
about
something?
this at the NFL draft on Thursday as they're breaking down prospects as well. But yes, and yet, Rutherford characterized it as a mental thing. He said, he got behind the 8 ball, Tocchet did, and then the confidence waned. And I hear that argument too.
That's a coach-player thing that's different. By the way, on the gears, just quickly, when I was in Vancouver, we did force plate testing. So you jump off this like blue platform, and all the data goes into the computer, and it's like it would spit out like a first gear, second gear, third gear, right? And so the defenseman profile, for me anyways, that you wanted to have was it was like a bar graph. You wanted the first gear to be your tallest bar, second gear a little bit less, and third gear a little bit less, because the thinking was, as a defenseman, you're to the corner, to the front of the net, to the corner, to the front. You want to be really quick in that regard. That's your first gear. I had the smallest first gear, a middle second gear, and like a way high third gear.
Yeah.
And then so we tried to change it and be like, okay, it's like, and then it just, sometimes you're just genetically going to be a certain way. And that's it.
He mentioned that. He talked about how, it's hard for him to put on strength because of genetics.
So you should have been a long track speed skater. We should have sent you to the Olympics.
That's what I should have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Goofy skates, spandex, and everything.
Yeah.
What do they call it in Holland? The Viking ship there, or the hop, hop, hop? Yeah. I want to get to this before we let you go. How chilled would you be if you're the Vancouver Canucks, knowing Quinn wants to play with his brothers at some point, and knowing he's 2 years away from free agency with a very
you could make all the preps in the world
season,
and then he just walks on you. You could prove yourself over the next 18 months, but then he still says, "Yeah, I'm still going to go play with him."
I would lose sleep over that. Like, I really would. Like, that's a player that you can't afford to lose. No organization can afford to lose a player like that. And the thing is, the thing that makes it realistic is, yes, of course, that like the brothers are always going to be playing somewhere else, but it's the fact that this organization has a lot of work to do now to get itself back to a place where you can go to him and say, here's the pitch for staying. We are going to be very good in a cup window for the next like 5 years or so. That's what you have to have on the table ready for him, or else he's going to look at it and say, well, I appreciate everything, but I want to go play with my brothers, and that team is actually really good and maybe has a chance to win right now. Like, it has to be like overly convincing. And they're far away from that right now. So that's the biggest fear. And I would lose sleep over that. I don't know, a lot. Like that's what would be my driving focus for everything I do the next little while.
If his brothers played for the Sabres, I would have some hope for the Canucks, and they could outpace that team and all. I mean, the Devils are poised pretty well. Like, I don't think they're going to be hoisting the chalice this year, but the next couple of years, I think it's within possibility, and that's the danger, is that he sees just as good an opportunity to win the cup with his brothers in New Jersey.
Yeah. You get maybe it comes to the point where you get ahead of it and try and make a trade so you don't lose them for anything.
We brought that up yesterday.
Away, man.
We brought that up yesterday. It's terrifying, but Is there any wisdom there in going preemptive?
Terrible thought, though.
I mean, you would have to have complete like closure on the situation as far as like, hey guys, this is going to happen. Like Matthew Tkachuk did with Calgary.
Right.
Guys, this is going to happen. I just want to throw you the courtesy. If you want to do something, maybe I owe it to you that way, which, hey, you'll cross that bridge when you come to it. But hopefully for the Canucks and the fans that love the team, they get to watch Quinn Hughes for a lot longer in that jersey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I learned of The Last of Us earlier in this interview.
You hadn't heard of the show The Last of Us?
I've never heard of the show The Last of Us. I see Jennifer Aniston did a cameo, and Andor, I did not realize was a prequel. Rogue One, hot take, Rogue One, the finest Star Wars film ever made.
Okay.
Wow, that is a hot take.
I'll level with you guys. I'll be completely honest. I haven't watched a TV show in what feels like ages. And my poor wife was like, let's watch the new season of White Lotus together. And we would put it on, and I would sit there on the stupid iPad watching games and like half watch White Lotus. And she'd be like, whoa, did you see that? I'm like, no, it's a commercial break right now, honey. She's like, no, in White Lotus. Like, no, honey, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's my life.
Twin babies will also do that to you.
Twin girls. Yeah. Go get back to them. Thank you for this.
See you guys.